And we're live, folks. I'd like to welcome you all to the Awakening Point LiveCast. Today here, beaming live from Sydney, Australia and the United States with our long-anticipated guest today, which is Christian Sundberg. I've had so many responses and, people sending me messages over the last week or so saying they just simply could not wait to see this LiveCast. And here we are. Folks, I give you Mr. Christian Sundberg. Welcome to the show, Christian. How are you?
Michael, hello. How are you, Stuart?
Really well. So excited to have you on, brother.
I'm very excited to be here, sir. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Now, Christian, just to open up today, we have a common denominator between the two of us. We've got a mutual link that brought us together in Tom Campbell and My Big Toad. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came across Tom's work?
Yeah, sure. It was about 7 years ago, and boy, life has changed a lot since then. I was just doing my thing, and I was a spiritual seeker, but I stumbled across one of Tom's videos, and he said a few things that really caught my attention, so I kept listening. And after about 35 minutes of the first video I was watching, he made a comment about, I think he said something to the effect of, what you believe is not going to get you anywhere particularly important, as in the content itself is not the active ingredient. And when he said that, at the time, I did have some beliefs that I did feel validated me. So when he made that comment, it actually stung a little bit. And this little voice inside me just kind of peeked up and said, why did that sting? And that simple question sent me down a path, and I began to investigate. I watched his videos. I got his book in the mail, and when I first got this huge 1,000-page tome, I wondered, should I read the preface? And the first sentence of the preface is, yes, you should read the preface. So no, I spent 2 years reading his book with a pen, and it was very impactful for me. It sent me down the path of meditation, and that just opened up a whole can of worms for me. So yes, his work has been extremely impactful for me and for others. I'm deeply thankful for Tom.
For sure, Christian. Likewise, Tom's work has really impacted my life on so many different levels, and I'm just so thankful not only to Tom for his work, but that it's brought people like yourself, people like Victor Aquaro, and all the other guests that we've got coming on the show. It's really brought us together in a global kind of network where we're now sharing this with people. And Christian, you've got your own blog where you express yourself quite regularly, and I've been a fan of your blog for a long time. You're a great writer, sir.
Oh no, thank you. Simple words.
Can you tell us a little bit about your blog?
Yeah, no, I can. And before I get into any of that, I really want to just say to everybody who's listening today that wherever you are in your life, however your human experience is going right now, I want to remind you that you are loved. You are actually deeply loved and celebrated. And that reminder, I feel, needs to be the first and foremost reminder, because when we come into this life and we have this human experience, it can be very distracting. We get caught up in our human identities and in all the circumstances of our life, all the demands. And, there's a lot of days we go home feeling alone or separate from each other. And I would just like to remind everybody who's listening that you're not separate, you're not alone, and you are very much loved. So even if that feels abstract right now, please at least hear it intellectually. So yeah, my blog. So the blog is just, I feel compelled to bring forward some of the awareness that I've come across over the last, I guess it'd be 7 years now. I had pre-birth memory as a child. I still have this memory. It left me for a while and returned after I got into meditation. And I've had non-physical experiences, and they've deeply impacted me. And my day-to-day awareness has changed significantly over the last 7 years. And I feel compelled to simply bring forth to those around me just some awareness of the greater aspects of our nature. because I see so many people around me every day who they're so focused in what they're doing and in the hardship and in the constraints of their lives. But we are much, much more than that. We are not actually even human. And to me, that's not even a thing that needs to be believed anymore. I know with certainty that we are spirits having a human experience. We're not humans having a spiritual experience, as the saying goes. So the blog is, my attempt simply to share what I learn and what I know, and I feel it will likely become a book someday. I feel it's important that I put it all together into one picture. And so yeah, it's just a simple thing, but I think that sharing perspective through the blog is something worth doing and something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, well, every time I read your new blog entries, sometimes it's uncanny, because I feel like you're actually writing about me. When I'm reading it, I'm like, this guy's like communicating directly with what I'm going through right now. It's just uncanny, the topics that you choose, week to week, are just so in line with what's going on in not just my life, but I know when I speak to other people, they seem to say the same thing. And one of the things that has really surprised me about you, Christian, and the reason why I'm so happy and excited to have you on the show today to share your wisdom with other people is your depth, the depth of wisdom that you have for your, I think, 37 years is quite incredible. And, today's topic on perspective is something that I've touched on with you a little bit in the last few days, and I'm just so happy to roll this out today. So in reference to the topic of perspective, where would you like to start?
Yes, perspective. So perspective is probably my favorite topic, because I think it really gets down to the root of what we're doing here as spirit engaging this reality. I think we need to set one foundation here first, and this may sound, this is an intellectual statement, but if you really explore this with your being and you explore it deeply, it's unbelievably profound, and it's beyond any words. And that is that we are primarily consciousness. Reality itself is primarily consciousness or spirit, and everything that occurs is happening as it is experienced. There's nothing that's happening without experience. It's consciousness engaging many different reality frames, not just Earth. And as it does so, consciousness is the constant, and it is the thing that is most real, and it is the thing that does not die. It doesn't go anywhere. So then perspective is very meaningful, because perspective is how we as consciousness, when we engage a given reality frame, like this Earth, and as humans, we frame it. We frame it in a certain way based on the context of our lives and our history and our upbringing and all the sense data we've accumulated, all the sights and sounds that we've processed, all the thoughts, all the understandings. We come up with, at any given moment, a perspective, and that perspective evolves as we go along. But we tend to be unaware of actually how important that perspective is and how free we are to change it if we like. We tend to think of the world outside of us as this one objective place. It's the world, and that we're all seeing this one world, and that it has some kind of inherent charge to it or something. But actually, that's not true. What we're having is a shared experience. You're having your experience, and I'm having my experience. And then as we have our experience, we assign the meaning to that experience. We have the freedom to do that. And that's a really powerful thing, because it means as soon as you're able to expand your perspective, you begin to change your reality. And that's not just a nice sounding phrase. Reality really does change for you. I'd say it actually changes in two major ways. One is that you experience reality differently, because your experience will reflect your perspective and your beliefs very accurately. And secondly is that reality itself responds. It changes. We can say it actualizes differently. It manifests differently, depending on what you believe about it and what you intend. And so we live in a society where billions of people on our planet are unaware of the power that they have within themselves, the power to change their lives, to change the world, and to live richer, more full lives. And I just feel this wonderful, like, passionate desire to take my brothers and sisters by the shoulder and say, you know what, it's okay. You're actually kind of dreaming right now. This is not a fundamental experience, and you get to interpret this experience however you like. And as you do that, your life will change. So I think that's probably why perspective is so meaningful to me, because that is it's the primary window by which consciousness entertains reality.
So Christian, what you're saying is, in simple terms, that the way a person frames a certain situation, the perspective that they choose to take, it's almost like a creative process where they can manifest or change reality in that decision. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes, we tend to think of events in our lives as being good or bad. You know, if you get sick, that's bad. You know, if you win the lottery, that's good. But those events, all the events actually of our entire life, everything we experience here is fundamentally neutral. The world is like a big mirror or something, and it's neutral. It's rigorous. It's very firm, and it's got very firm boundaries to it, apparent boundaries. But it's neutral, and then we get to assign the meaning to it. So when something happens to you, you actually do get to decide how to respond to it. The problem is, after a lifetime of thinking a certain way and believing a certain way, those thoughts and beliefs become somewhat invisible to us. You know, we reach a point, especially by the time we're, I don't know, when I was 23, I thought I had the world figured out. You know, I pretty much thought I had it nailed, and that was that. Boy, you know, was I completely wrong. But so many people feel, I think most people generally feel at any given moment they've got reality pretty much figured out. Well, we don't. And I think the first step to seeing how deep that rabbit hole goes is to recognize that you actually have a lot more control over how you experience your life than you know. And when you exercise that power, it's incredible. Reality itself will respond to you. And also your experience of it will change. You know, if you get sick, say you get the flu, and now you get the flu and you're having this sensory experience. Your stomach is upset, you're vomiting, you have a headache, you feel like garbage, you know. The whole world can seem dark and difficult, you know, because your body is going through a certain experience. But even that, you know, even that experience, there's no meaning automatically on that experience. You get to assign that meaning yourself. And that simple idea is a very empowering message. I don't think I was ever told that when I was young, you know, that I get to interpret my experience. But what's interesting is when you're in other reality frames, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but when you're in other reality frames, your interpretation and your belief and your expectation immediately manifests into the environment around you. There's no lag. So it becomes very apparent what you believe and how you're interpreting any given circumstance. Here, it's a lot slower.
So when you say, Christian, when you say other reality frames, what exactly are you referring to? Like a bigger picture outside of this little picture, outside of this reality?
Yes. Yeah, we actually exist in other reality systems right now. You exist right now outside of the physical. And this portion of you is completely focused on this experience. And it seems like all there is because it's all you remember. We have to accept what we use the word the veil in order to come here. And it just means we accept the limitation of not remembering and not knowing. And I have memory of accepting the veil and how, you know, incredibly, I can't describe the intensity of the experience of accepting the veil and coming here and having the knowing shut off. But anyway, we already still exist in other systems right now. It's not a terribly mystical thing. It's just what we are. We are multidimensional consciousness right now. So anyway, while we're here though, we forget. You know, we become the human identity because forgetting allows us to be that human identity and then to experience exactly what it's like to have the perspectives and the beliefs of that local identity. You know, that is what your local experience is. You're experiencing exactly what it's like to be you in this constraint set and with your current beliefs. So I don't know if that speaks to the question, but that's part of what we're here to do.
So we're kind of like in a learning lab as such here, as Tom Campbell calls it, in My Big Toe, and the fact that we can plug into or tap into this greater reality outside of this learning lab allows us to more easily connect with, I suppose, the power that we have to frame our experience in this reality, which is something that we may have forgotten over time, yes?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also true that we don't necessarily have to be aware of our larger natures while we're here, because we come here to forget. So, you know, that's kind of part and parcel for what we're doing here as humans. But yes, we do exist outside of this reality, and becoming in touch with that can be very helpful. And then here, as we experience this perspective of being human, you say it's a learning lab. I just want to highlight that it's not an intellectual learning lab. We're not here to learn facts. We're here to have experiences. And that includes having the experience of not knowing who you really are in the big picture, and seeing if you can still engage this crazy world we're in successfully. And to have these experiences and then to try to integrate them. We are integrators of experience. I think Teal Swan says that, and I really love that phrase. And I think, like in my own case, I had a traumatic experience in my 20s. I had PTSD as a result of this experience, and I spent years feeling totally separate from the early portion of my life because I just couldn't handle or process the scope of this traumatic experience that I had. And then actually it was Tom Campbell's work. He spoke a lot about fear that kind of guided me into, well, he keeps talking about fear, and I know I've had a lot of fear, and I ended up exploring that. And the thing is, that trauma is because I couldn't handle the experience at that time, and I buried it. I segregated my entire self just so that I wouldn't have to face this terror. And I now know, I remember that I came to this life to do that, actually, to have that darkness, to experience that. But then if you're able to engage that and then integrate it, to actually face that darkness, go into it and feel it and be with it, that is incredible. You expand in turn. And the expansion opportunity available to us in this learning lab, in this world, is just unbelievable from the spiritual perspective. I mean, this place is like, you know, it's kind of crazy what we're doing. I mean, a little bit nuts how rigorous we've made this experience, but the opportunity is even greater than the apparent hardship. There isn't actually ultimately a hardship. It's just we have these experiences, and then we get to see if we can integrate those experiences and still be our true selves in the midst of those experiences or not.
So Christian, perfect timing. We've just got a question through a very good friend of mine in the United States, Mike McGrath, who's asking, for somebody that's got zero experience with this sort of thing, where should I start?
So I personally have found that a great place to start is meditation. And the reason meditation is important is not because it's some activity you can sit down and do that's going to get you somewhere. It's important because when you shift your intention away from all of the thoughts that you think make you up, you become gradually more familiar with the thing that you really are. And that thing that you really are is awareness. You are constantly this present, spacious being, and the thoughts are occurring within you. The sensory data, the sights, the sounds are occurring within you. And meditation, I think, is, the word meditation means a lot of different things to different people. I'm using it more in the sense of transcendental meditation, or meditation with the intention of being able to focus away from thoughts and just be present. Often you do have to start by just focusing on a neutral object for a while, like a chair in your mind, and becoming familiar with the fact that thoughts keep pulling you away from this one thing you're choosing to focus on. But as you go down that path far enough, gradually you become familiar with the fact that you are not the thoughts or the content of the thoughts. You are the experiencer of the thoughts. You're the listener to the thoughts. And as you do that, it really helps because you begin to see yourself. I mean, spirituality is a process of finding what you really are. You know, going into beneath all the garbage and all the stories you've told yourself, finding out what you really are. And you know what? It's not necessarily the easiest walk to start, because it means you have to face exactly what you are. You have to face your stories, your excuses, your weaknesses, your imperfections. We have vast imperfections, you know, and it can be so humbling to face those. I know with my own trauma, you know, when I look back and when I finally found that darkness after it took years of counseling, and when I finally found it, it was I couldn't believe how weak, I don't want to say that I was, but that I felt, that I bought that perception that I bought into. And it took a lot of courage to feel that. So, you know, so it takes courage to do that self-investigation necessary to discover what you really are. But as you do so, you end up being freed. You know, in the long run, you end up being released. Spirituality is about tearing down what you're not. You don't intentionally tear it down. You just go find out what you are, and you meet that experience wherever you are. It's a gradual process. But anyway, so now I'd say meditation is a really good place to start for that, because you will find what you are as you spend time with yourself, and as you identify the thoughts for what they are. Bit by bit, you will move yourself towards greater and greater awareness of what's actually real. This unharmable awareness beneath the identity that has captivated you for so long.
And Christian, why should people who are out there right now, bills piling up, may have lost their job, maybe going through a divorce, kids involved, going through a really, really tough struggle right now in this reality.
Yeah. And
they're overwhelmed by it. And they're just consumed by that darkness. Why should somebody start to put energy and focus into meditation, into going down this path? What's in it for them?
Each person is at a very different place, so one recommendation may not be useful for the next person. And for some people, meditation is not something that they can do. I do have people approach me and ask for guidance about meditation, and for some people, it's it's perfectly fine that they discover it's not the path for them, because they're not ready to sit and even just think of a neutral object in their mind for a minute is very difficult for them. So I'll start by saying, if that's not possible, if meditation is not something that resonates with somebody, then I recommend to begin by simply spending time being aware of the present moment in your life without attaching a meaning to it or a story to it. That is, focus on your sensory experience to start. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? You know, how does your body feel? And then as you do that, spend time every day just sitting down and being aware of the depth of you. Just feel what you are for a moment. Now, your question was, why should they do that? What's the benefit to them? I'm just mentioning that as a way to start if meditation doesn't seem to catch for somebody. Meditation is fantastic as well. But the reason is, and this is fantastic, I'm overjoyed to be able to say this to anybody who might hear it. Your true nature, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your circumstances are, your true nature, right now, your actual true nature, is completely beyond all of the pain, all of the constraints, all of the stress, all of the fear. You are an immortal, powerful, expansive, loved being. You are right now. So the answer to your question is that, what is the value in moving towards that? You know, what is the value in moving towards being aware of what you really are? Well, the thing is, you are free. You are already free. It is the circumstances that themselves are, I don't quite like the word illusion, but they're an illusion. They are not fundamental to you. And I know, I get caught up in them too. I mean, I'm like a baby in this regard. I have a lot of work to do, and I know how it can be to get totally caught up in those things in our lives. But our true nature beneath all that is already free and is already completely loved and completely powerful. And so when we have experiences that aren't of freedom or of love or of power, we feel terrible, you know, because what's happening is we are buying into a self-perception that is not the truth. That's what happens. You know, we feel, in my case, in my trauma, I felt completely powerless. I felt that I was powerless to avoid pain. That was the self-perception that I felt my experience was proving to me was true about reality. I am powerless to this pain. But so that perception is one that I bought into. And I was unaware at that moment, like so many are, that my greater nature transcended that. And so I just feel it's very important for those who are caught up. When you're deep down in the muck, somebody can't just even walk up to you and say everything is all right. Now, if they say that to you, you will not hear it. You're not resonant. You're not at that level at that moment. So to each person, we need to do our best to meet them where they are, you know, because each person needs love in a unique way, depending on the circumstance. But to answer your question, the reason it is valuable is because that's what we are. We are love and we are freedom. And that actually segues into one other idea that I'll just mention that we talked about before, you and I. When we buy into perceptions that are in alignment with what we really are, perceptions that are freeing and empowering and loving, when you feel I am loved, or I am beautiful, or I am capable, I am powerful, I'm free. That's the tough one with me, right? But when you buy into that positive, that feeling, and you actually believe it, you feel great. You feel great. And the reason you feel great is because you are in alignment with the truth. The actual truth of your being is already free and powerful and loving. And then conversely, when you're having an experience in your life that is very challenging, very painful, very constricting, and you believe of yourself, I'm trapped, I'm powerless, I have no freedom, whatever it is, boy, you can feel even in your body the sensation sinks down and you feel low. You feel your vibration go down and the world kind of turns a shade of gray. And what's happening is you are taking a vibrational step away from what you really are, from the source, which is totally free. So I'm mentioning that because as we talk about perspective, part of that is that you can look at how your own thoughts and how your own beliefs make you feel. You know, when you think about your life, how do you feel? And if you don't feel good, think, why do I feel that way? Now you got to be brave enough to actually face the answer. Because usually your ego, the ego is just the part of you that's trying to protect you and justify things. It's usually going to give you, like, somewhere high in the branches of the tree, the top level story as to why you feel that way. And then if you're brave enough and you work through that, you might get to the next level and the next level. And eventually, if you do that deep enough and you really investigate your own perspective deep enough, you'll find out that deep down there at the root, usually there's some very deep fears. And we have to be brave enough to go face those fears, you know, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. It can feel like it's going to destroy you sometimes if it's a really, really profound fear. It may feel completely overwhelming, like a tornado, you know, or something. And it feels like when you engage it, it's going to destroy you. It won't. It won't. You can't actually be destroyed. So that, I just want to encourage those who are listening then, if you're having an experience in your life where that you feel constrained, take a step back, take a deep breath, let yourself let go, and try to remember what you really are. Because you are far, far more than the circumstance. And this is not just a beliefy thing. This is actually how you are. Your consciousness is having this experience. You're totally wrapped up in this human experience. You may have no conscious awareness of your greater being, but you actually are vastly transcendent to your hardships. So I hope that can encourage somebody, because I know I've been there.
And just what you've touched on here, Christian, what you've just shared with us, this is probably a gateway, a first step for more than one person that's viewing right now into realizing this power that they have to like reframe their situation and to use their power of perspective to like really start to outgrow these fears or this position that they've put themselves in.
I believe that is true, and you have to try it yourself. You know, all this whole spirituality thing is not about listening to somebody else talk. You know, it's not about going and reading the next book or looking under the next rock. You're not going to find the answers there, because the spirit transcends everything in this entire reality system. But anyway, I'm mentioning that though because this process is very personal, and I just want to encourage whoever is listening that you do have the strength. You do have the power to look into your own self and find out how you are approaching reality, how you're framing reality within yourself, and to know that you have that power. You know, you have the power to reframe your perspective. It's an amazing thing, you know. And it's amazing that we don't tell each other this more often. And I don't feel like this is some incredible, you know, thing. This is just how reality works. It's just we've forgotten. So we got to remind each other, you know, we are powerful beings, and ultimately there's nothing to fear. There's ultimately nothing to fear. So what are we doing? It's good stuff.
That's a powerful message. That's a real powerful message, and something that I definitely want to help spread, which is, you know, for us to remind each other a little bit more of just how powerful we are, of just how powerful this message of love, this message of empowerment that you're sharing with us now to help people reframe, to get the right perspective in any given situation, no matter how dark their place is right now.
I want to mention another thing about this when you're in a really dark place. The thing is, so when you're in a dark place like that, it can feel like you're completely and totally separate from everything. But the truth is that you are always a part of God, or what we call God, source, the light, whatever term we want to use. I like the Rumi quote. Trying to think of the exact words, but you are not just a drop in the ocean, you are the mighty ocean in the drop. And I like that because, you know, we feel individuated here, and when we're human, we don't remember what we are, we feel disconnected. But at your deepest level, you are already connected to every single thing around you. You are already a part of God. That's not a, you know, it's again, these words are vastly, they just don't even touch what I'm attempting to articulate. But I just want to say though that when you're in that dark place, you are still that. You are always, 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 always connected to that loving source. You can't be far from it. In fact, distance itself isn't even a real thing. Distance is an experience that's occurring within your awareness. We're having the experience of distance, but all of us right now are a part of the ocean of consciousness, the sea of light. And even when you're in that deep darkness, you are still that. And if you listen deep down, if you feel deep down, there's a part of you that knows that. You know, your intuition will remind you just for a minute, put aside the stuff in your brain, all the things you learned, all the sin and all the whatever else. Just put that stuff aside for a second and feel. You feel a preciousness within you. That preciousness, that when you think of I, you feel I. You can feel a preciousness deep down in there. Maybe underneath it's a bunch of garbage and a bunch of all self-judgment and all that, but deep down, that preciousness is an intuitive sense of the deep spiritual value that you always hold and your inalienable connection to everything else. You are always, always connected. So I just want to say that because it can feel the opposite when you're down in the darkness. It can feel very lonely, and it's interesting, by the way, that we say when an experience is dark, it feels lonely and it feels separate. And the reason we say that is because it's the opposite of what is true. Truth is connectedness, oneness, unity. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all connected, but we forget that. So, yeah, go ahead.
It seems, Christian, that a lot of our problems stem from the fact that we forget that consciousness is fundamental, meaning that this is all happening within consciousness. And as soon as we kind of realize what that means, it kind of brings everything into perspective, exactly like what you're touching on, that we do have the power to change things because consciousness is fundamental and we are consciousness.
Yes, I agree. And that's another reason that meditation is so valuable, because until you have that experience where all of a sudden you're not the human anymore, this all sounds intellectual. But we are, as wonderful Brother Steve has said, we are a spirit having a human experience. That is absolutely true. So that's it to me. So I mean, I have some awareness of my nature. So it almost seems comical to me or funny to me that we've created such a stark place where we feel so separate. It's like, wow, what have we done? No, but your true nature can't escape you even when you have this experience of separation.
And I mean, this being the learning lab that it is, that separation is probably what is really giving us the experience to be able to learn about what you're touching on, that we aren't separate.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. This experience offers the opportunity for contrast, and contrast gives the spirit a distance to integrate. There are really no good words for this. The contrast gives the spirit I guess the word would be contrast. The world of duality gives the spirit a contrast by which it can know more. And that is in itself extremely meaningful. And Campbell has said something to the effect of, there's more beings in the other systems who want to come here and be human than there are even humans who are here. And the irony is that we all want to get out. So many of us here are miserable. But in fact, the contrast is an opportunity. And sometimes when the great darkness comes and I feel something, and it's very difficult, I try to look at that contrast and see it as an opportunity, because it is actually a very precious opportunity. That's one of the very chief memories I have from my pre-birth experience, is remembering how incredibly precious the opportunity was to be this person and to have this experience, even though I knew it was going to be really tough. It was just like, wow, I'm so honored that I get to do this, and this is an amazing, what a gift. I mean, the sense of a gift is amazing. And then now we're here. Most of us are just not happy all the time. We're having a tough time down here, and we forget. But in fact, it's an opportunity. And I like saying, if you're on the weight bench, you might as well lift the weights. If you're here, you might as well try to use the contrast of your experience for the best. And interestingly, as soon as you do that, as soon as you're willing to actually fully engage your experience, that ironically is when you get freed from it, when you expand, when you're ready to actually face it and know it. Yeah, so back to your question, yes, this physical reality gives us that opportunity. It gives us a chance to exist in duality, and our beings transcend duality itself. And that's why, by the way, that I often hear people saying, well, it's this way and not this way, and then, it's this religion and not this religion, and it's really form A, B, and C, and you got it wrong when you think it's D. The thing is, the spirit transcends all of the form. Every bit of duality is transcended. It's all within that which gives rise to it, all that is, the source. So it is not correct to just then grasp onto one form and say that is the truth. But that's what duality allows us to do. We come there and we see like, well, I got this, and I got hot and cold, and I got up and down, and I must have truth and false, and I must have all these. It's bigger than that.
So within all of this confusion, within all of this this incredible clumsiness that we're all tripping over each other, it's kind of like a circus going on, and we're just trying to work out what this is all about, what's going on, bringing perspective, bringing framing, bringing this power back to each one of us within this clumsiness.
Yes.
To a personal growth point of view. Christian, how can we help people outgrow their fears, outgrow the corner they may be believing they've painted themselves in? What would be a good first step? I know you've touched on meditation. What else can we do to give them a nudge?
I think there are as many answers as there are people, but I know in my case, the place that I feel called to serve in that way is to simply put the perspective in front of them, because what's interesting is that the Spirit uses whatever the content is of the person in their lives to speak to that person in a way that can reach out to them. So for some people that is like a religious text, or for some people it may be nature itself or whatever. And so for me, I feel like it is valuable to do what we're doing right now, and to remind those around us of what they really are, because all it takes is one little nudge sometimes. And if the person is ready and if they're willing, they start down the path. Just like Tom Campbell did for me. It was the right nudge at the right moment. It took me 30 years to get to the point where I was ready, and my ego was ready to be challenged. I was finally done with that. I still have ego, and don't get me wrong, very egotistical, but I just mean we each have a moment, I think, when we're kind of ready. And when we put that information out there, and when we express that, and it doesn't even have to be information. It can be a smile. You're at the gas station and you see the person next to you and they're having a bum day. They're not. You can just tell they're kind of miserable. You can just tell them something nice. And then all of a sudden that person, it may mean nothing to them, but it might be that thing that reminds them of the light. It might be that thing that reminds them and starts them down that path. So you're talking about how can we help people find down that path, go down that path. Well, ultimately in a free will system, it's always up to the individual, but fortunately the Spirit knows each of us very well and tends to know how to reach each of us when we're ready and in whatever context we're ready for.
And Christian, can you share with us a little bit, can you touch on your journey, the point that it's at the moment? You've started your journey with, just coming into contact with Tom Campbell and MBT, as I did. You're further down the track than I am. I'm still, in nappies, literally.
Wait, I gotta interrupt you here for a second. It's not one track. It's a multi-dimensional expansion, and so I don't like it when people say that one person is further along than another, because we are all, it's like saying one sunset is further along than another sunset. It's not applicable. And I do want to take this moment, since I'm saying this, to just tell you that what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. And I had the opportunity to tell you that in person, but I think it's awesome what you're doing with the Awakening Point. And I think you're going to reach a lot of people. And the decisions that you made to step out of your comfort zone are impacting people right now. This very moment. The people that are listening right now are listening because you made that decision. So thank you very much for doing that. And the spirit is proud of you. I mentioned that I felt that before. So anyway, go back. You can go back and continue what you were saying. I don't. Yeah. So did you want me to then speak to where I feel I am now in my?
Yeah, where you are now, like what you sense, your awakening, where you're at with that. I know you and I have spoken a bit about this, and I'm actually interested to know a little bit more myself about that, and I'm sure everyone listening in is now that they know you. For the people who didn't know you before, they know you now, and I'm certainly looking forward to having you as a regular guest here on the show. So where to now for Christian Sundberg?
I think that's a very difficult thing to speak to, because I find that the further I go down this path, the less words there are for what is actually happening. Until I was 30, I've always been very spiritual within a certain context, and I've had a lot of personal challenge in the last few years, like I mentioned. And I had this trauma that I experienced in my 20s, and I remember before I was born choosing this path that may lead to this, and knowing that it would feel like a very long life. And to be honest, I feel like I've been on Earth about 9,000 years. I mean, my body is 37, but I feel like I've been here a very long time, and I miss home very much. I've mentioned that in some of the near-death experience groups I'm in, that having some awareness of where we come from can be very painful, because it's so beautiful and wonderful. But anyway, where I am in my walk, after I went down this meditation walk, there was a time when I was kind of expanding out, and I was having out-of-body experiences, and I was doing all this stuff. And then I discovered that what I really need to do is be human, and to fully go into my humanness and into my weakness. And so lately I've been doing a lot of that. I've just been very human focused, meditating. I still meditate, try to meditate every day, but meditating less and being present with what it is to be human. And as I go in this direction, I find that, boy, I feel connected to everybody around me to some extent all the time. And it can be difficult, because I feel a little bit like I see all these wonderful, powerful beings who are kind of playing these roles around me every day and getting caught up in them. And then, of course, I get caught up in my roles. I get caught up in my job and my responsibilities and my health issues. I get caught up in all that. But I simultaneously am becoming increasingly aware that this is not me. And even when you ask me what's happening with me, I almost can't say it's me. It's more like, this is what is happening. This life is happening, and as we are willing, I think this is the most important thing. If we're willing to go in that direction, to be genuine, if you're willing to actually strive to wield a quality of intent that is loving, an intent that is loving, as Campbell says, and if you are willing to face your fears, then the Spirit will work with you, and you will be set free, even if you have to walk through some hellfires first. So I can't say I know where I'm going. I feel like the more I know, the more I realize I don't know anything, and most of us, we're pretty lost, but that's okay. It's totally fine. Everything. I also know that all is well. All is indeed completely well. And that's not just a nice saying, it's what's happening with life itself. Life is always well. It doesn't actually die. Nothing actually can harm it. And so even though I have many challenges, I feel that I'm becoming increasingly aware of that. But focusing on being human, I guess, as I'd say where I'm at now. I mean, I didn't even realize how much I was resisting the human experience the first 30 years of my life. You know, I'm such a sensitive person. I've always been energetically sensitive. I'm sensitive to foods. I'm sensitive to drugs. I'm sensitive to the environment. You know, but so now to be fully present with that, and all the ways that, you know, just going to work in the morning and engaging people every day and eating food, you know, sometimes it still strikes me as so strange that, you know, we got to take care of the body and go to the bathroom. And, you know, one day I was on the toilet, you know, and I'm about to be done going to the toilet, and all of a sudden it struck me, I am this being, and here I am on the toilet with a piece of toilet paper in my hand, you know, and it's like you said, you had this awakening one day where you kind of looked in the mirror and you just saw almost like an ape. And yeah, I mean, I'm going deeper down that path, and I don't even know how to put words on that. I don't think it can be named. I just know that love prevails, and I hope that all the many people that are listening today can be reminded of who they really are, and that love that exists for them. Because that's what we're here to do. Love each other. Face our experience. Grow up. Stop screwing around. And love each other.
And isn't it funny, as I'm hearing you say this, isn't it funny how this whole thing, this whole game we're in, this whole virtual reality that we're in here,
yeah.
The vast majority of us, and I mean maybe 99.9%, maybe even more, don't really know what's going on. We don't really know what we actually are. We're just so trying to figure this out with no clue really as to what's going on, and yet every single one of us somehow knows deep down that love is it.
Amen.
This is the game.
Preach it, brother.
This is what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree. We live in a world that is largely clueless, intellectually clueless. But, like you said, we all know, deep down underneath there, we know. And we are waking up, and the awakening this is maybe for another day when we have another topic, we can talk about this, but the change that is occurring is not just on the surface like we're doing now where we're sending words to each other. There's a change happening in consciousness space. That is that all of us are connected in consciousness space, and everybody that's on the earth right now is a part of one big group. And every time you have an intention or think a thought or do whatever, that you're actually affecting millions of other people and you don't even know it. You're pinging the system constantly. So as we consider these ideas, as others are listening in on this conversation, as they're thinking about these thoughts, this is impacting other people and giving permission to those people to be more of themselves. And that awakening process may not even happen intellectually. There was a Deepak Chopra video that I really appreciated where somebody said, you know, I have MS and I'm paralyzed in bed, and can I participate in this awakening that's going on right now? And he said, absolutely. Even if you're laying in bed unable to do a physical thing, that change inside of you, facing your fears, growing up, doing that inside of you, it has an effect. So even though on the surface it appears that there's a lot of misunderstanding, and indeed we are in the infancy phase here, we're a very young race yet. Someday our descendants are going to look back and be like, wow, those people did not know what they were doing quite yet in comparison to them. No, but spiritually, we are waking up, and it may be a rough road. That's okay. You know, as Campbell says, yeah, the whole experiment could fail. I don't think it's going to fail. I think we're going to succeed. I think as a race, we're growing up, and I think there's a lot of love and kindness. I think kindness is growing, love is growing. I do not think the world is as dark as the mainstream media seems to portray, to sell sensationalism every day. That's all an illusion. I think what's really happening is more and more people are facing their crap and starting to decide to actually come to kindness.
And Christian, this this shitstorm that we're in every day, and this underlying truth of love, your message of perspective, of reframing, of empowerment, what's a final message that you can hit us up with and let people take away with them today?
You are love. You are absolutely love. But the thing is, that's not just an abstract idea. Love is native to what you are. And right now, around every one of us, there are our friends and brothers and sisters in the non-physical who are watching over us and speaking to us and encouraging us. And they love us. And not only do they love us, there's so much love for us that it's just not comprehensible. I mean, we take it all the way to the love of Source. And I have not had a near-death experience, but I am so grateful to the near-death experiencers that I interact with, because they speak to that love. They spread that message of love. And so I think the final word then would be to remind you that even if you don't know about God or Source or whatever the word you want to put on that which we come from, that power that gave birth to the entire universe, to all form, to all of this, is with you right now, this very moment. For me, it's a Monday night in 2018, and it's going to be with you when you go to the bathroom, and it's going to be with you when you get your clothes on, and no matter what happens, you will never ever be separate from that love and that protection. And it is my profound honor to remind you of that, because that is what you are. You may be taking your walk in the physical, as my blog is called, but that's not what you are. It's a journey. So thank you very much, Michael, for the opportunity to be with you today. And I look forward already to doing it again. And I just think it's so awesome what you're doing. So please do continue to spread that light, because holy cow, man, you're doing it. Like you are doing it. I shall do, brother.
I shall do it. With your help, we will do it together. So Christian, your blog's URL, the website, where can people go to have a read of your blog?
Sure, it's www.awalkinthephysical.com. One word. Just words, just a language, but yeah, I appreciate anybody who would visit.
And I know I'm there every week visiting, and I implore all of our viewers to pop in and have a read of Christian's blog, A Walk in the Physical. It's all part of this beautiful personal growth journey that we're all on, in trying to work out what the hell's going on here. And with
what the hell's going on? You got it.
What's that?
I said, what the hell's going on? You got it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, look, with special heart leaders like Christian Sundberg and his message, I'm sure we'll all take an extra step, 2 or 3, in the right direction towards love. Christian Sundberg, thank you, brother. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us today.
Thank you, brother. I much enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day.
You too, Christian, and see you on the show again real soon. Thank you, folks. That's it for us today, and we'll see you again next Tuesday at the same time. Bye for now.